This video is about Guantanamo Bay. Now, you already know that Bo Bird Dog, the deserter, like we really needed him back. Obama traded him for Taliban terrorists, right? Just to give you an idea. And Obama said he wanted to shut down Guantanamo Bay. I wouldn't mind them shutting down Guantanamo Bay because of the NDA 2012. The NDA 2012 that's signed by Obama says that if you keep ammunition weatherproofed, which is indoors, or if you have more than 1 week of food in your house, or if you're a veteran who's been overseas and fought in a conflict, or if you're missing one finger, more than one finger on either of your hands, or all sorts of crazy stuff like that, that you're a terrorist and you can be thrown into Guantanamo Bay without you. Go research it. If you think I'm doubted, you're doubting it. In fact, go look up Rand Paul, NDA 2012, floor of Congress, and you can see the video where he's standing up on the floor of Congress talking about it. And if they shut down Guantanamo, and they wouldn't be able to haul American citizens down there without due process, without being charged, without being convicted, without going to a trial, without seeing an attorney. Yeah, okay, I'd kind of like to see Guantanamo Bay shut down too. But what are you going to do with 100 and something hardcore terrorists that are in Guantanamo right now? And Obama's wanting to send them in to the United States, and every state so far has rejected and said, hell no, we don't want them people up here. And the reason for that is they'll find out some way to release them like they did the other 60,000 people, and they'll end up right here on the streets of the United States. You think I'm joking, huh? Yeah, well, what's it?
He's from Guantanamo Bay and halting President Obama's plans to shut down that detention center. Measures apparently included refusing to provide photographs, complete medical obstacles to slow down the
Wait, I'm sorry.
Breaking tonight, a stunning new report alleging that Pentagon officials have created bureaucratic obstacles to slow down the process of transferring detainees from Guantanamo Bay and halting President Obama.
Thank goodness the freaking Pentagon's at least looking out for our security interest, and they can't be pushed by Obama is what we're beginning to see here because of the Obama agenda. And it's not an Obama agenda, it's a government's agenda, but it's not the agenda of the military.
Shut down that detention center. Measures apparently included refusing to provide photographs, complete medical records, and other basic documentation to foreign governments who were willing to take detainees. The report also revealing President Obama scolded yet another defense secretary over the transfer of detainees from Gitmo. James Rosen is in Washington with that story. James.
Shannon, good evening. Senior Defense Department sources tell Fox News that the Pentagon's moves to slow down the emptying of the terrorist detention facility at Guantanamo Bay continue to this day, with the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, U.S. Marine Corps General Joseph Dunford, still not having signed off on transfer requests put into the pipeline by the White House.
Decorated General.
DoD sources further tell Fox News that the 107 detainees still housed at Gitmo are all, to a man, hardcore terrorists.
107 that are left are hardcore terrorists. Hardcore terrorists.
Said administration officials are neither confirming nor denying today's Reuters report that the commander-in-chief personally scolded Defense Secretary Ashton Carter in a one-on-one meeting 3 months ago.
So how many defense secretaries has Obama been through during his administration? You'll hear that later, because he pushes them because they want to protect the country, and he wants to do just the opposite. That's the reason why they can't get along, and that's why they push them out, discredit them, and try to freaking destroy them. Same thing happened with General Petraeus, who's done the same thing that Hillary Clinton did. But Hillary did it freaking, 100,000 times worse. And all General Petraeus did was allow his girlfriend, which was actually the person who was helping him with all the memos and all that kind of stuff, allowed her access to his email, personal email, which had some information in it. Now, Hillary Clinton operated fully on her personal email, and all kinds of stuff showing up in her email that was security related, national security related. She's could be convicted. She probably right now could be convicted on 25 or 30 or 40 counts.
Said the Pentagon takes the transfer requests, quote, very seriously and continues to, quote, engage with our interagency partners. At his year-end news conference earlier this month, the president spoke of the review process for the remaining detainees and of his determination to prevail over those who want to see Guantanamo stay in business.
My expectation is by early next year, we should have reduced that population below 100. And we will continue to steadily chip away at the numbers in Guantanamo.
If the Reuters report is true, it would make Ash Carter the second successive defense secretary with whom the president has clashed over Guantanamo Bay. Chuck Hagel recently confirmed that his slowness to approve detainee transfers led to his being forced out of his job by the White House after less than a year this past February. Hagel added to foreignpolicy.com that White House officials tried to, quote, destroy his reputation on his way out. Those allegations surfaced on the day the president gave that year-end news conference, but he wasn't asked about them, and so the White House has not yet responded to Hagel's claims.
So you see what he does to people that don't share his opinion, right?
All right, James, thank you very much. Here with more reaction, Pete Hegseth, a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. Also was a guard at Guantanamo Bay. And Richard Socarides, a White House senior advisor under President Bill Clinton and writer for NewYorker.com. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Let me make one more comment that I didn't make a minute ago. Oops. Just slipped my mind. Sorry.
Okay, Richard, I'm going to start with you. The Pentagon denies there were any intentional delays. The White House is denying any tension with the Pentagon. Where does that leave us?
Well, obviously, in this country, we have civilian control of the military, and in theory, the Pentagon is supposed to take orders from the civilian commander-in-chief. So most of the time, I'm sure it works that way.
And the civilian commander-in-chief is supposed to take orders from the civilians.
But as someone who worked in the White House for President Clinton, I know that there's always a bit of tension between the military and the civilian leaders. So I suspect that there was some tension around this. I mean, this has obviously been a very complicated issue for President Obama and for President Bush before him.
And Pete,
And President Bush before him. You see, it's not just the Democrats. It's not just the Republicans. It's the global agenda. The New World Order is where all this is going.
107 remain. I think that's a pretty reliable number there. But the president, from day one has made this a goal that he's going to shut down Guantanamo Bay. He's even talked about in his press conference, if I have to take executive action, I maybe could do that to bring people to the U.S.
You ever asked yourself why they want to shut down Guantanamo Bay?
State he's visited, the congressional delegations, Republicans and Democrats, pretty much across the board have said, not here. Right. What happens?
Well, and ultimately the Pentagon's got to be a part of that implementation. They've felt marginalized from the very beginning. This is a White House that has politicized, has consolidated national security policy within the NSC and the White House, marginalizing the Pentagon. And you've got every single former Secretary of Defense, from Gates to Panetta to Hagel, they've all eventually talked about the politicization, the micromanagement, and it comes down to, with Guantanamo Bay, they feel like national security is at stake, and the White House is committed to a campaign pledge. They're seeing folks we're releasing going back to the battlefield saying those that are still there are the worst of the worst. They don't want to see these guys released, and they don't think the White House is oriented on national security. They're oriented on a campaign promise. No one's questioning civilian control of the military. What these secretaries of defense are questioning is whether or not this White House is truly committed to winning the war on terrorism, defeating ISIS.
I think all those secretaries of defense that you mentioned support closing Guantanamo Bay. Yes, there are obviously, well, in theory, it's.
Let me interject one thought. Donald Rumsfeld wasn't mentioned just then, and if you remember what Donald Rumsfeld said, there was a report the day before 9/11 that there was $2 million or $2 billion that was lost by the Justice Department, and he said this is treasonous, right? And just to let you guys know, there was two places where that report was saved. You got to have off-site backups and all that kind of places. Hard copies have to be duplicated and all that in the government. There was two places where those reports were housed. One was in tower number 7, which was the small tower, the third tower that went down. It was in the northwest corner on about floor 23, I believe. And that was the one that came down, well, we won't even go into that. But if you want to find out some stuff about 9/11, just look for the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth and look for their 2-hour original video. It's got so much physics and chemistry and stuff like that, but it's easy to understand. You can see what happened. The other place where that document was located, the backup document was located, was in the exact spot in the Pentagon where the plane hit the Pentagon, but there was no tails, no wings, no seats, no wheels, no engines, nothing there in every one or all of the first responder videos there at the moment that happened. The first responder videos that went in there, there ain't a scrap of evidence that there was a plane there, and there would have been.
Gates, Colin Powell, all of those secretaries of defense say that Guantanamo Bay should be closed. Now, it has to be done, obviously, carefully.
Well,
it has to be done in a way that
there's
security is not put at
PR
risk.
Issue that the Obama administration is having to deal with now about the Bergdahl trade and 5 who left in exchange for him, who's now being court-martialed. I mean, this is a very delicate subject for the administration.
Well, Guantanamo Bay certainly is a very delicate subject and has to be. And obviously, President Obama said, I think on his second day in office, that he committed to closing Guantanamo Bay. And look now, we haven't been able to close it because we haven't been able to determine with enough certainty that none of those people that would be released would be a danger to us or make alternative arrangements. So I think that there is some effort to try to do this together. However, when the civilian control of the government decides that they're going to take certain actions with respect to detainees, the Pentagon has to fall into line or suffer the consequences.
And it denies.
Or the Pentagon has to look out for national security and realize that there's a coup going on in the White House and do everything they can to protect national security. That's what you're seeing.
Any intentional delays.
It's a bureaucracy. Things can happen in a bureaucracy. It's not like...
Richard's not buying it.
Well,
Listen, I know as someone who's worked at the White House, I know how hard it is to get someone...
These guys at Guantanamo Bay who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is more than a delicate issue. This is a 25-30% recidivism rate. This is current leaders of ISIS, current leaders of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda from Gitmo with street cred, released by the previous White House and this White House. The ones who are there now are the worst of the worst. He's not worried about what they've done or where they're going.
Do you not think it shouldn't be closed?
We've long since passed the utility of the propaganda argument. This is about winning the war against terrorism.
Gonna leave it there.
All right.
We'll continue during the commercial break. That'll be pay-per-view. Great to see both of you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, up next, terrifying chaos at a Midwest.
Just to throw something in on the end of the video, just to give you an idea of how they're allowing all this mass unrest. Look at the title down there. Mall riot leads to 0 arrests. This is in Kentucky. It almost seems like it's staged. I don't know.
More than 1,000 teens erupted in a terrifying mob in Kentucky. Police reporting brawls, even gunshots. By all accounts, it was total mayhem, yet not one person will face any consequences. We have attorneys.
Even gunshots. Holy cow. You know how many cameras they have in a mall? They could identify those people and snag them and lock them up so fast, make their head spin. I haven't listened to this yet, so we'll pause it. Now, isn't this amazing? You heard what I just said, right? Well, listen to what Trace Gallagher says. I have not seen this.
Shannon, police in Louisville still don't know what sparked the violence, but once it began, it spread like wildfire, leading authorities to believe it may have been pre-planned.
Did you hear that? I hadn't seen the video before I made that comment a minute ago. I haven't seen anything past this either. I stopped it.
Witnesses say the disturbance started as teens harassing customers and loitering in stores. That in turn led to shouting and fistfights. And it wasn't just in certain locations. It was scattered across the entire mall. Police got the first call of a disturbance at 7 o'clock Saturday night. That was soon followed by dozens of other calls. And as the groups of kids increased, so did the violence.
Now, just hearing that, you heard how it started across the mall, all the way across the mall. That, I mean, that's organized. That was an organized or staged event. Now, why would they stage an event like that and not arrest anyone who was involved in that event? Don't you think that's kind of strange? That they think that it might have had something to do with a staged event, but nobody got arrested? I mean, don't they think this might have something to do with terrorism or something along that neighborhood? I wonder what that's really about. But let me tell you what I know about at least part of this. I don't know what they're going to show. I haven't seen this. I don't know what they're going to show here, but the Posse Comitatus restricts the United States military from operating on United States soil. Only one that can operate is a branch of the Army called the Army National Guard. Those are civilians who are part-time National Guard people. They live here, they work here, we go to school with their children, we know their wives, where they work and all that kind of stuff. They're not going to do something stupid, right, to the rest of the citizenry. But they are militarizing our police forces, giving them freaking military-grade hardware. They're running around with assault rifles that the government doesn't want us to have to protect ourselves from the government. If you're familiar with the Second Amendment, it's not the gun amendment. The Second Amendment is a militia amendment. It says you have a right to maintain a well-organized militia for the protection of the free state, and your right to bear arms shall not be infringed. That means no infringement. That means you going down there and having to go to a class and apply for a permit to get a concealed carry to be able to carry a weapon. That is infringing on your right to bear arms, period. No questions about it. But that's what's happening. Let's watch a little bit more of this video and see if we see some militarized police force out and practicing.
Different police departments responded. Listen now to police dispatch.
Different police departments.
We got multiple riots, crowds of hundreds. We got stores going into lockdown, shutting the gates, etc. We're responding to another fight right now by the Victoria's Secret entrance that are going on all around us. We're being advised people are being shot at.
Yeah, the report said shots were fired inside and outside the mall, but those claims were never confirmed, though it was described as a mob mentality that started feeding on itself with some 2,000 people, mostly teens, involved. Police who tried to break up the fights were cussed at and then targeted with trash and other projectiles. No officers were hurt, and despite the violence, no...
Oh, so they're getting the police ready for civil unrest and getting shit thrown at them. What was that, Boston not too long ago? They put up with that, and they let it. Wasn't that Boston that they let all that stuff happen up there and let them riot in the streets and let them tear up businesses and a whole freaking area down there? And the mayor and the governor said just leave them alone, let them do that, and back the police up, and the police couldn't go in, and they were all out there in their riot gear and all that stuff. Does that ring a bell to you? Don't you see the contiguous wheel of thought here? Don't you see where we're headed?
Instead, they were sent home with their parents or on public transportation. Police said they were focused on...
So they identified the kids and sent them home with their parents in public transportation instead of sending their ass to jail? Huh. What the heck?
Safety, not justice. And the mayor seems to think it was just kids being kids. Listen.
Oh, kids being kids, rioting in the streets, shooting guns at people?
You're going to arrest them for being noisy? There were some kids who were mouthy and a little bit belligerent towards the police. I don't think in this case arrest would have done anything but incite more panic.
$10 says that he's a Democrat. $10 says that he's into the Obama administration. I bet you somebody looks into it, they'll find that to be true. Let's see what else he says.
Except there are reports that teens have been gathering, taunting, and antagonizing police in the area for months. Critics say the time has come for all kids under 16 to be turned away from the mall unless accompanied by an adult. Shannon.
All right.
Now that statement was made by mall employees and mall security and all that, I'm sure. Anyway, not to get off topic, but that just happened to pop up. So, do you guys like the videos? Like and share. And I don't have a lot of time to make these kind of videos, but I'll continue to make them if there's a good interest in them. Thanks. God bless. Have a nice day.